ဒီနေ့ဥပဒနာပထမဇာဟောပြီးဒုတိယဇာဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့ဟောဖို့ရှိပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့လို့ဥပဒနာပထမဇာဖြစ်တဲ့ခိုက်တံမှာအကုသိုလ်တွေလည်းပဲအကုသိုလ်တွေမှာကင်းနေတယ်အကုသိုလ်တွေမှာကင်းတဲ့ဇာဖြစ်နေတယ်ဆိုတာအဲ့ဒီစကားလေးပါပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီအကုသိုလ်ကိလေသာတရားတွေဘယ်လောက်များကင်းတယ်လဲလို့ယောဂီတွေကိုယ်တွေ့နေပေါ့လေတိုက်ဆိုင်ပြီးတော့ကြည်နိုင်ဖို့ရာဒီနေ့ကိလေသာမှန်စိတ္တိ10ပါးအကြောင်းဟောမှာပဲလို့စဉ်းစားမိတာနဲ့မဟုတ်လို့ဒီနေ့အဲ့ဒီမှန်စိတ္တိ10ပါးဟောပါမယ်
As a follow-up to the discourse on the first Vipassana jhana, Sayadaw should actually be talking about the second Vipassana jhana today. In the discourse on the first Vipassana jhana, it was said that upon attainment of this jhana, the mind is cleared of certain unwholesome mental states, of certain kilesas. In order to give yogis here an inkling of the kilesas that are overcome through this attainment of the first jhana, the first Vipassana jhana, Sayadaw thought that it might be appropriate to talk about the 10 armies of Mara tonight, rather than to discuss the second Vipassana jhana. This treatment of the 10 armies of Mara, of course, will be oriented towards your own practical experience.
တရားထုတ်တယ်ဆိုတာအမှန်ကတော့ကုသိုလ်နဲ့အကုသိုလ်စစ်တိုက်ရာမှာကိလေသာမှန်စိတ္တိတွေကအကုသိုလ်ဘက်ကဝိုင်းပြီးတော့တိုက်ကြတယ်ဒီတော့အကုသိုလ်ဘက်ကပါဝင်ပြီးတော့တိုက်ကြတဲ့ကိလေသာမှန်စိတ္တိတွေကိုဒီကတတိပဋ္ဌာန်အလုံးနဲ့ပေါ့လေခုခံကာကွယ်ဖြုတ်ဖြစ်ရတာပါ
One way of looking at the sort of meditation that all of you are doing at the present moment is a war. It is a war between the unwholesome mental states and wholesome mental states. On the side of the unwholesome mental states, we have the forces of the kilesas, otherwise called the 10 armies of Mara. And on the side of the wholesome mental states, we have this strategy of Satipatthana Vipassana meditation, which provides defense as well as attack.
Kama dana ye aluja kama wazara kudu kanjao kama gong pore လူဘဝရောက်နေကြတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေဟာ လူပေါင်းလောကမှာတော့ရူပယုံတတ္တယုံအစရှိတဲ့ကာမဂုဏ်၅ပါးအာယုန်တရားတို့ဟာဝတ္ထုကာမလို့ဆိုရပါတယ်။ခုနကလည်းဝတ္ထုကာမအကြောင်းပြောသွားပါတယ်။အဲ့ဒီအာယုန်တွေကိုလူချင်းမေမောလိုက်စားတဲ့လောဘကိုတော့ကိလေသာကာမလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်။ဝတ္ထုကာမတွေမှာကိလေသာကာမနဲ့ညှိကပ်တွေ့တာရောထွေးပြီးတော့ဒီလိုပဲကာမဘုံသားတွေဟာကာမဂုဏ်ထဲမှာနစ်မွန်းပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒါနဲ့ပဲအချိန်ကုန်ပျော်ပိုက်နေကြတာပဲ
For beings who have been born in the realm of sensual pleasures as a result of their wholesome karma that was performed in a material or sensual sphere, they are faced with a wide assortment, a wide variety of sensual objects while they are living in their respective realms, in their respective planes of existence. The sensual objects, of course, are things which appeal to the senses, pleasurable visual objects and sounds and smells and so forth. These are called vattu kama, the base of sensual pleasure, which actually refer to sensual objects. Another aspect of karma or sensual pleasure is that of kilesa kama, which refers to the craving and desire, the hankering after all these sensual objects.
Eri kama 2 မျိုးဟာလူပေါင်းလောကမှာတော့ပထမဆုံးကိလေသာမန်စိတ္တိရဲ့တတ်မှတ်တော်ကြီးပါပဲ
For beings born on this planet, for beings born in the human plane, this karma, this twofold karma, constitute the first army of Mara.
အခုတရားဌာနမှာယောဂီဖြစ်နေအထုတ်နေကြတဲ့သူတော်စင်များဟာမိမိတို့ပိုင်ဆိုင်တဲ့ကာမတွေကိုအောင်နိုင်ပြီးတော့ဗောလေအခုတရားဌာနရောက်လာကြတယ်တောထွက်လာကြတယ်လို့ဆိုကြပါစို့တောထွက်လာပြီးတော့တကယ်အစဉ်တမ်းမြင့်တဲ့ကုသိုလ်တရားတွေအထုတ်နေကြတယ်အဲ့ဒါလိုအထုတ်ရာမှာတရားဌာနမှာလည်းပဲအကြောင်းအားလျော်စွာမပြုံမွှေ့တာမျိုးလေးတွေရှိတယ်ထက်တန်းစားကုသိုလ်တွေပြုရေးမှာစိတ်မပါဘဲနဲ့မပြုံမွှေ့တာရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒါမျိုးကိုအရတိလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်မပြုံမွှေ့တော့ဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့နေဖို့ရန်တိမခံနိုင်တာတို့ဘာတို့ညာတို့ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီပဲအကုန်လုံးသွားတော့တာပါပဲအဲ့ဒီအရတိဟာဒုတိယတမ္ပတော်ကြီးပါပဲ
All you good people here have been quite successful in leaving the sensual objects and pleasures behind in order to come to this center to practice meditation. However, as your stay in this center is prolonged, you may encounter certain difficulties with regard to the environment here, with regard perhaps to some of your needs and necessities. As you stay in the center, you might find some facilities unsuitable, and you may have some cause or other to feel dissatisfied with what you are doing. You're not happy. You're not immersing yourself in the delight of meditation. Somehow or other, something will crop up, and you will tend to find fault with what you're doing here. This, of course, is the second army of Mara, which is dissatisfaction. It is dissatisfaction with the practice that you are doing.
ဒုတိယစစ်တာကတော့စာလောင်မွတ်သိချင်းပါပဲငတ်ချင်းပေါ့လေခုတ်ပိပါတာဆိုတာဒါဒုတိယစစ်တာပါပဲဒါခွင့်တို့ရဟန်းတော်များနဲ့ဆိုရင်ပို့ပြီးတော့သက်ဆိုင်ပါတယ်ဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့ရဟန်းတော်များဟာသူများလှူသည်များသူများပေးသည်များနဲ့ရောက်ရတင်းနေရတာဖြစ်တော့ကိုယ်လိုရှိတဲ့ဟာလည်းရခြင်းမှရမှာပဲလိုမရှိတာလည်းရခြင်းလည်းရနေမှာပဲဒီတော့လူပေါင်းလောကလိုကိုယ်လိုရှိသလိုမဖြစ်တော့ဆာလောင်မွတ်သိတဲ့ဓာန်ခံရတယ်အဲ့ဒီဓာန်ကလည်းမသက်တာဘူးဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့သူများပေးသမျှနဲ့တင့်နေရတာကိုခုယောဂီတွေဟာလည်းဒီမှာလာပြီးတော့အထုတ်တဲ့အခါမှာကိုယ်အိမ်လိုတော့ထင်တယ်လို့ပေါ့လေအချိန်မရွေးကိုလိုတာတွေတော့မရနိုင်ဘူးပေါ့အဲ့ဒါလိုမရနိုင်တဲ့အခါမှာလိုတဲ့ဟာတွေမရတော့စာလုံးမွတ်သိတဲ့ဓာန်တော့ထိုက်လျောက်တော့ခံရမှာပဲအဲ့ဒီဟာတတိယတမတော်ကြီးပါပဲ
Another formidable army of Mara is to be found in hunger and thirst. In the days of old, or even presently, it is the practice of monks to depend on the generosity and goodwill of lay supporters, of the faithful. Sometimes a monk may have to live in quite a secluded area, depending on a small group of families for support. He goes for his alms round every day, and sometimes he may get some things which is suitable for him, and other times it may not be. Some of his requisites may be well taken care of, while others may still be very lacking. If one is not properly, if one's requisites and necessities are not suitably seen to, then one can suffer from hunger and thirst, not necessarily only for food, but with respect to your needs, your requirements. This holds the same too for yogis who come here to meditate. Of course, it must be admitted that yogis who come here, although may find it very conducive, it may find the environment pretty conducive to practice, it cannot be denied that it is not quite like home. you don't get everything that you want. And this can cause a lot of hunger and thirst for so much of the familiar things that we are so used to back at home.
Ngắt đã rồi, sao tao điểm hậu bảo thì vì ở xa thì lại về chui ra vì nó nia ra chứ ở xa lại ngắt đã về. La ba bị gì thì khai ra mà tung xuôi ra chứ đó tung xuôi nia ra bố cô la ba abi ra bố cô đi xuôi, area tuổi lại về ngắt đã về. Era đi vào thế gì mà số lúc kia nó miếng gì bộ.
Of course, as I said earlier, hunger and thirst are not confined only to food. It is also relevant to other things, like, for example, a person who may normally pay a lot of attention to clothes or to makeup and so forth, will find that it is quite inappropriate to indulge in his or her old habits in this particular environment. And that by itself could also be a case of hunger and thirst.
Yani jari mayaro ngamo de dan khaya bi so ye sik ka yukkan la de yani ja ha li di ya lo de sa jin ne ha li di eda li di sha la da sik the ya sha la da pathama so tauk chin ne ha li di le be sik the ka sha la da be sik the ya de mho phu ko ba da kha le yauk da be so ba so yi gai mu sa ni ja bu ko haအခုဌာနဆိုတော့ရေခဲမုတ်ကတခါမှစားရတယ်နေဒီပါလေနေ့စဉ်စားနေကြဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒါလေးတွေစားခြင်းတယ်အဲ့ဒီရေခဲမုတ်ရှာလို့တဲ့ပရိယေတနာတဏှာဆိုတာလေးတွေဖြစ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီတဏှာလေးတွေပေးရတာလေမတက်တာဘူးအဲ့ဒါလိုတဲ့ပစ္စည်းတွေငတ်လို့လိုတဲ့ပစ္စည်းတွေရလို့တဲ့ပရိယေတနာတဏှာဟာစတုထစိတ်တကြီးပဲ
One does not succumb so easily to such situations of hunger and thirst. It is, of course, something pretty uncomfortable, a feeling that nobody really welcomes. If it does strike us, then invariably the mind will start to scheme. You come out with all those fantastic plans of what you're going to do to get all those things that you're missing. You come out with all sorts of justifications in order to get what you want, all for the sake of the practice. And this is not only confined to your mind. You get so obsessed by it that you really start to move around, writing notes and putting it up on the blackboard, on the notice board, and trying to get those things. It can be pretty exhausting. And that, of course, is another army of Mara called craving. It is craving that motivates all these activities, craving to satisfy hunger and thirst.
Isileva nagari tang chinka biro lupayare. Ini baba so kisa majiwa wiwa so mana be. Ese so kamida sare pokuri so mateta bubo. Aku yogi halebe Yanita Halidi Mayaro Nabi Suri, Sitega Sharo Maya, Saitman. Taita the Maya, Yao Judaji or Leve, Kuleve Pemana. Sabema Kubema, Soroshi, say ha, Amashido, Tina Mida Yaula, Tina Mida ha, Pisamatamaro Jive.
The normal practice for a Buddhist monk is to go for alms round every day in the village or in the community, whereby he gains his support. And at times one's bowl may not be quite full after the normal alms round, or some of the things that may be suitable for one's diet may still not have been obtained yet. Now at that point, one may, instead of coming straight back to the monastery, one may prefer to continue looking for alms. And that could take one a long way. And there's no telling that if you go that new alms route, you're going to get what you want. And that sometimes it may be very long. So that craving which motivates this search for what one wants can create a lot of exhaustion, mentally as well as physically. In the case of yogis who are meditating here, you can, I'm sure, understand through your own experience how exhausting it can be to scheme and plan and to go through the actual motions of actually trying to realize and materialize your fantastic plans. So exhaustion comes, the mind and body gets pretty fatigued and tired, and that is just the right moment for the fifth army of Mara to march in. And that is none other than sloth and torpor, drowsiness.
Tinia Tanama Tina Mida Jauno Nene Chebido Pure Mave. Absolutely, Yogi Dia to Lelusi. Nagoa Ima Jore Bogura, the Yaulabi, so in the Sassane, the night that. Eddie Tina Mida Malone Nane Holo. The Yari Torone, Macau Websini, the Chiwada Pare. You know, Tina Mida on any Chebido Homa, the Melo. We the Chanzi Tavara.
At this juncture, Sayadaw feels that it may be quite appropriate to talk a little on the subject of sloth and torpor. Many of you have come from afar to meditate in this center, and some of you may have some problems with drowsiness and sluggishness in practice. One at times may be quite surprised to learn how great a nodder one can be.
Tina made that so there's a Zuma Tina Suragaro, say a Majama who knew no who. Say I am go Chanzi who. Sashi Luma, Matanzwane the war. Either so bad.
The Pali word tina is usually translated as torpor, which means a very weak state of mind, a very
See, I
a very weak sort of mind, a mind that is shrunken and withered, and a mind that is unable to grasp an object of meditation.
Say area boku masong nai mene duele jani mood, nothing the bawa jare. Pablo Lesra Ichimi so tiny like Kamala, tiny area woman, tiny no. Yalemayan I know, Toara leve, Chowdi, Swanita, Kule, Madejam Shida. Tina Mida ha. Ria Bogu, Masauna Mene, Dwelle, Chavio, Anne the water taking shot at them. Tina Mida Nissa Lily, Tina Nissa Lily, gonna see her live yo, you a dwelle, you pili, taking shot.
So this Tina or sloth, because it makes the mind so weak, will also bring about a corresponding effect with respect to one's body, to one's posture. Weakness of mind will automatically bring about a weakness or an inability to hold the body posture firmly and steadily. The mind being so slothful and so sluggish will not be able to keep your sitting posture erect and firm, nor will you be able to walk properly in your walking meditation. It will be a real drag, so to speak.
The near level, say my Adaba Kore, a Budaga Mayaro. Tina Wellavi so ye say her Tovamia, Amido, Suyong Mido, Tweak Kedwa the body. Say her Tweak Kedwa. Jamian Pew Wally, Gigi Lillian, that will let Masido.
The presence of Tina in the mind will also mean that atapa, the fiery aspect of energy, is absent. When that happens, the mind becomes very hard and very difficult to work with. It is almost unworkable. It becomes stiff and hard and shrunken and withered. It is not at all fresh nor malleable. It is not active. It is not sharp.
Diya Thana Ma Achimadamene Sikha Tweak Kavido Nivi Solushi no Adi Yogi Boko Ma Arama Dhatu Kore Sabu Juba Atum Uriata Negua Shini Melo Nikama Dhatu Kore Adi say Picamu Tweak Camu Piodwa Look nine Nikama that machine no say her Kemia Kenny Rabe Yodi Kamyoma a bien tamori Kona Tovalu Kenny de Seiko Nikama Uria Tane body Tikere how Chidwa on Lufuduare Ayama the sense of it a semi out there tea body a sense to be the art of the Brakama Tatu Uria Tatluare.
Even the yogi who may be endowed with launching energy, launching effort, the preliminary energy that is able to bring the yogi to a situation where one is willing to meditate and to look at what's happening. Such a yogi's mind, if affected by tina, by this quality of sloth, becomes so hard and rigid and in such a knot that even that sort of launching energy will not be able to overcome that problem, will not be able to overcome that very unpleasant state of mind. What is needed at this point is the second stage of energy, which is called liberating energy. Liberating effort refers to the attempt, the added or boosted energy needed to overcome that obstacle of sloth. But still, one should not stop at the second stage, but should continue to develop a third stage of energy that is called developing energy, that will bring one to the ultimate goal.
မိတ္တဆိုတာကလည်းပဲအမှန်ကတော့စတတိတရားတို့ရဲ့မကြမ်းမာမှုညှိုးနွမ်းမှုအဲ့ဒီစတတိတရားတို့ဟာဆရာကိစ္စမှာမခံကြမ်းမှုမတန်ဆွမ်းမှုအဲ့ဒါတွေကိုပြောတာပါပဲဟိုကအထိနာကစိတ်ရဲ့အခြေအနေပေါ့လေမိတ္တကတော့စေတသိက်ရဲ့အခြေအနေပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါကိုပြောတာထူတာပါပဲ
မိတ္တ
ဘယ်
လိုအခြေအနေ
ခုနစိတ်ရဲ့မကြမ်းပါမှုလေဒီကစေတသိက်ရဲ့မကြမ်းပါမှုတွေပေါ့စေတသိက်တရားတွေရှိတယ်မဟုတ်လားဖတ်တာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မိတ္တဝင်လာလို့ရှိရင်ဖတ်တာအာယုမထိနိုင်တော့ပိပိသတာမထိနိုင်ဝေဒနာလည်းပဲပြည့်ပြည့်ဝမခံစားနိုင်တော့ဟုတ်တယ်မဟုတ်လားခုနဝိရိယတို့ဘာလို့လည်းပဲဆိုင်ရာကိစ္စမဆောင်ရနိုင်တော့ဒါမျိုးတွေပေါ့တတိကလည်းပဲကောင်းကောင်းအမှတ်မရနိုင်တော့သူတို့ခါလည်းအားနေသွားတာပဲဒါလေးဒါတူတာပေါ့
In reference to this state of mind, two words are used in the Pali language. You call it tina midha. Tina, that was translated just now, is sloth, and midha, which is sometimes translated as stopper, actually refers to the general state of mind. Tina refers to the particular mental factor of sloth, whereas midha refers to the condition of consciousness as a whole that comes about as a result of the presence of this mental factor of sloth. When sloth is present, other mental factors which arise simultaneous with that particular consciousness will also be affected. Like energy or mindfulness, aim and contact and so forth. All these are the mental factors too will be made weak, will be shrunken and withered will be made stiff and rigid, unmalleable, and their functions will be retarded.
အဲ့ဒီလိုမိတ္တတရားဝင်လာပြီဆိုရင်ဆရာစေတသိက်တရားတွေဟာလွှမ်းဖုံးခံရတော့တာပဲကောင်းငင်ပြင်းကြီးကိုမိုးတိမ်ကြီးလွှမ်းဖုံးတယ်လို့ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီလိုလွှမ်းဖုံးတယ်လို့လည်းဖြစ်သွားတယ်ဘာမှစေတသိက်တရားတွေဟာပြီးသားတာမရှိတော့ဘူးတနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲနှောင်အိမ်ထဲမှာပေါ့လေထောင်ထဲမှာပိတ်လုံခံရတယ်လို့ဖြစ်နေတယ်စေတသိက်တရားတွေဟာလွတ်လွတ်လပ်လပ်မရှိတော့ဘူးတတိကလည်းပဲလွတ်လွတ်လပ်လပ်မရှိဝိရိယလည်းလွတ်လွတ်လပ်မရှိတတိယလည်းလွတ်လွတ်လပ်လပ်မရှိအကုန်လုံးမလွတ်လပ်ဖဲနဲ့ကတည်းကပိတ်လုံထားတယ်လို့ဖြစ်တာဒီခါမှာ
The presence of Mettā in the mind means that all the other simultaneously occurring mental factors would be influenced to a great extent. They would be engulfed in that shroud of weakness, of sluggishness, and none of them would be able to execute their respective functions properly. It is like being trapped or imprisoned in a small cell. It is very restrictive, it is a restrictive state of mind, and it imprisons the mind and the associated mental factors, and deprives each of the mental factors of their freedom to execute their respective functions.
အဲ့ဒီလိုစေတသိက်တရားတွေဟာမိတ္တရဲ့အပိတ်လောင်ခံရတော့သူတို့ဆရာတတ္တိတွေမပြနိုင်တော့ဘူးမပြနိုင်တော့သူတို့ရဲ့တတ္တိတွေအခွင့်အရေးဆုံးရှုံးနေတာတော့မိတ္တကလှုပ်ပေးလိုက်တာပဲပြမျက်နှာမရှိတော့ပိတ်ဆို့ထားတာပဲအဲ့ဒီကကြတော့ငိုင်မြင့်စီမှုဆိုတာမိတ္တကငိုင်မြင့်အောင်သူကလှုပ်ပလိုက်ကောင်းငိုင်မြင့်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မျက်တောင်လေးတစ်ခတ်နဲ့တလှုပ်လှုပ်နဲ့ဖြစ်လာတာပဲမိတ်တုံနဲ့ဖြစ်လာတာပဲမသက်တာတော့ဘူးတည်းမှာတဆတ်နဲ့တခါတည်းငိုက်လာတော့တာပဲ
When the mental factors like effort or mindfulness and so forth are deprived of their right to execute their respective duties and functions, then it becomes clear that the mind will be brought to a standstill in the sense of the work that it is required to do. Very naturally, your eyelids begin to flicker. There is this very familiar sensation in the eyes, and you start to nod. အခုပြောခဲ့တဲ့ဌိနနဲ့မိတ္တတရားနှစ်ပါးဟာသူတို့အချင်းချင်းမခွဲမခွာပဲနဲ့ဖြစ်တတ်ပါတယ်ဌိနဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်လည်းမိတ္တပါတော့တာမိတ္တဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်လည်းဌိနပါတော့တာပါပဲဒီတော့သူတို့ဖြစ်လာပြီဆိုရင်ကုသိုလ်တရားတွေကိုဟန်တာတော့တာပဲအဲတော့ဟန်တာတတ်တဲ့တရားမို့လို့သူ့ကိုနိဝရဏတရားထဲမှာ၅ပါးထဲမှာသူကထည့်သွင်းပြီးတော့ရည်တွက်ထားပါတယ် It is not very easy to try to distinguish practically this quality of thina and that of middha. In fact, they are so closely connected to one another that if one is present, the other two will be around. But the point is that is beside the point. What is more important is the fact that when both of them are present, the mind is obstructed from carrying out any wholesome activities. It is on account of this development that Tinamida, sloth and torpor, is considered a hindrance.
Yogi mya edi Tinamida khore pisama mya tamaro ji ko phyu phye yada ka toro khet de.
It may be pretty difficult for the yogi to be able to overcome this attack by the fifth army of Mara, sloth and torpor.
Di niya thana ma Tinamida phit chin ye ajaung ni le be the pi ro pyo chin pa le. Da ma lo shuk thwe twa ma so lo aida ri khana tha aung nauk ja ma da ri pyo pa aung me. Tinamida nei ne ne ni ri ro Nyat Swa Bhaya ho mian ne atain paw le. Aida li to the pyo pa me.
It would be rather interesting to know how Tinamida arises. What is the cause behind its appearance? But being concerned that you might get a little bit confused, the Sayadaw feels that we should deal with this subject later and instead concentrate on a more practical topic, and that is the ways and means of overcoming, of combating Tinamida, sloth and torpor.
Di chain ma Shimogala ko ro mya taniya ma taya athuk ni do edi Tinamida wen yauk hnait set do sight de ha pyan pyan pyu pyu mashi pi chwe yi phit nida. Kuna thoba mya ee mi do khe ni lu pi chwe yi phit ni do taya ka ma tet hu. Aida lo achi ni Nyat Swa Bhaya ka myin taw mu do Shimogala ko ro mya tha Nyat Swa Bhaya jwa la de.
Once, when the Venerable Moggallana was meditating in the forest, he was overcome by sloth and torpor. His mind became withered and shrunken, and was like a piece of butter that hardened on account of the coal. It was terribly unworkable. At that point, the Lord Buddha happened to look into the mind of Venerable Moggallana, and seeing his plight, approached the elder.
Edi chain ma Shimogala ko ro mya ha Thottapan phit pi athai met phoတရားဓုတွေရရှိရေးအတွက်
At that time, the Venerable Moggallana was in fact already a stream entrant, a Sotapanna, but he was striving for the higher paths and fruitions.
ဘုရားယဟနာဖြစ်တဲ့အထိရွေချက်နဲ့အားထုတ်နေတာအခုဘုန်းကြီးတို့ယောဂီများတော့ဘယ်လောက်ထိရွေချက်ရှိပြီးအားထုတ်နေတယ်ဆိုတာတော့ဘုန်းကြီးအနေနဲ့အတတ်မပြောနိုင်ဘူးပေါ့လေသို့တော့တူညီတာကတော့ငိုက်တာချင်းတော့တူညီလိမ့်မယ်
In those days, the goal of arahantship was the ideal for most people, for the Venerable Moggallana especially. But of course we'll not be able to say what is the goal of the yogis here, but one thing is certain, and that is both Moggallana and you are still attacked by sloth and torpor.
Your Miaswapia Chita Mogalana, Ingai Nidala, Naimi Nidala, Chita Mogalana, Naimi Nidala, so consent body. Mimiano Muare. The Jimogala Gurumiaga, Mama Pia, the Mido, the Sassan, and Nailava, Yamiro, Shautavare.
The Buddha appeared and asked the Venerable Elder, "My son, Moggallana, are you drowsy? Are you sleepy? Are you nodding?" And the elder replied, "Yes, Lord, I am nodding."
Shimogala Gurumiaga, Boom, Shin, Yuda, Piamiro, Meshibara. The Church Yogi Miaro, a night lima, Ralachi, the Mila Lucy, 11, night de Biology, take a Java Zulu, Mapioja. A night lima bungaro. The Galo Diata, night Walusi, Wonglesu, Malaya on Saviro, Leku, Tout Habiro, Taina Mulesi. The show of Milene, Taina Mulesi, a Milis Radari, Mainiro, Naimalamdibu. Era di si de. Ngai dala melu si lebe era di jaro David Pungo jare. Shu yogi di to bare, ichin de fia, ngai de fia di lu pyo ja bare dama. To lili mama ne ngai de boku mya ro era li ko twel pi do toro ne di yada ma lu phu so lo shi yin no era taya tu de hu thai ma lwe bu. Era li di thri tha pho atwat ka ro thai aye chi bare. The
Venerable Elder was very frank and candid in his reply. There are some yogis, however, who are smart nodders. They are very secretive about their drowsiness and nodding habit. At times when they come for an interview and they are asked if they have any problems with drowsiness and sleepiness, and they would very adamantly deny that they have anything to do at all with sloth and torpor. In fact, there are some yogis who are such experts in nodding that they take special precautions to make sure that they don't topple over. They lean on something, they make sure that their hands are quite well prepared to catch them as they fall. However, there are also some yogis who are very frank and candid. When they come for interviews, they will very truthfully say that they have problems with sloth and torpor. Sayadaw is not referring, of course, to the yogis here. He's talking of his experience in Burma.
Miaswapia, Meshiba, Chita, Chita, Naimimu, Nini, Dia Konaba, Mapia Home, Natao.
Then the Buddha said to the Venerable Moggallana, "Listen, my son, I will now teach you 5 techniques of overcoming sloth and torpor. Do listen very carefully."
Patama Tinya Pyongbe, Tinya Pyongbe, so I say Tinya Lady Pyongbe. John the Guja, Naimu Pilaye. Can I go a low light a boguri ha? Guni, Iglea, Konghawe, Milia Konghawe, Sadi Wally, Edelo, say a 10 lady, Pitcher. အဲ့လိုစိတ်ထင်လေးတွေဖြစ်နေလို့ရှိရင်တော့ခုနငြိမ်မြဲမှုကိုအားပေးရရောက်တယ်အားပေးရရောက်နေတော့ तू ကအားရှိပြီးတော့ဒီဌိနငြိမ်မြဲမှုဟာမပြောက်ဘူးဒီတော့အဲ့ဒီလိုတင်ညာလေးဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်ပြောင်းပေးပါတဲ့မငိုက်ဘူးထိမ့်မယ်ဒီဟာပြောက်အောင်လုပ်မယ်ဒီလိုစိတ်ကလေးပြောင်းပေးလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ကလေးကလန်းဆန့်လာတယ် तू ကတနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲဖောက်မှုပိမှုနဲ့ချက်တဲ့မှတ်နေရင်ကခအေးလေးဖြစ်နေတော့ငိုက်ပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ထိုင်နာလေးထဲမှလိုက်ထိတာလေးထဲမှလိုက်ပေါ့လေအမှတ်ကလေးတွေပေါ့လေဖြစ်ဆွဲပြီးတော့ပြောင်းလဲပြီးတော့မှတ်ပေးလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်လည်းပျောက်တတ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါပထမဆုံးငိုက်မိနှိမ့်နေတရားပါပဲ
The first technique is that of changing one's attitude. In the course of meditation, during the very frequent attacks of drowsiness, one may be very tempted to give in to thoughts like this. Well, I'm getting sleepier and sleepier, and it's not doing me much good. I'm not being mindful. Maybe I should just take an hour of sleep and that will freshen me up. Maybe I'll just go lie down and lean against the wall for a few seconds. That might help to, give me extra energy. As long as one is entertaining such thoughts, this mental state of sloth and torpor will be given further encouragement to occur again and again. But if one is very decisive and one resolves to change one's attitude, if in fact sloth and torpor should occur, I will not at all entertain any thoughts of giving into it. I will sit and see through this sloth and torpor. If one has that sort of determination, that means that one has changed one's attitude. Another aspect of this change of attitude is that sometimes when one is watching the rise and fall of the abdomen, one may find the observation of rising and falling getting to be quite easy. One is getting the hang of it. And so there's a very natural relaxing and sitting back and just watching very coolly. Now at that point, due to the relaxation of effort, sloth and torpor can creep in very easily. When that happens, one should try to increase one's attention, one's noting, to look more carefully into the rise and fall with more energy, as well as to increase the number of objects of meditation. One could do rising, falling, sitting, or rising, falling, touching, or even rising, falling, sitting, touching, rising, falling, sitting, touching, and so forth. So this change of attitude, change of strategy will help to overcome drowsiness.
အဲ့ဒီနည်းနဲ့မပြောက်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ရထားတဲ့စာလေးတွေအဓိပ္ပာယ်ကိုကြံတွေးပါတဲ့ပျောက်တတ်ပါတယ်
If that does not work, it is said that if you will reflect on some passages that you have learned by heart within your mind, if you could reflect on the meaning of certain passages which you find very inspiring, then that could also be an effective antidote.
ကြံတွေးတဲ့ဝိတက်ကဝင်လာပြီလေဝိတက်ကဝင်လာတော့ဌိနမိတ္တနဲ့ဆန့်ကျင်မဲ့နဲ့ဒီမှာတိုက်ပြလိုက်တာပေါ့ဝိတက်ကစိတ်ကိုပြန်ကောက်အောင်လုပ်ပြတာ
So this reflection this thinking process is one aspect of vitakka, which we have discussed at length a few days ago. And because of the presence of vitakka, of this aspect of vitakka, the mind can be refreshed and rejuvenated in terms of energy and freshness.
အဲ့ဒီနည်းနဲ့မပြတ်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ယာပိဒစာလေးတွေအတန်ထုတ်လိုက်ပြီးတော့ရွတ်ပါတဲ့
The third strategy to adopt when this one fails is to actually recite that passage that you have memorized aloud.
ရွတ်ရမယ်ဆိုလို့အများကြားတဲ့တော့အကျဉ်းယူလို့တော့မတော်ဘူးပေါ့လေ ချိန်ပြီးတော့ကိုကြားရုံပဲရွတ်ရမှာပေါ့ ပါးစပ်လှုပ်ရုံတော်ပြီပေါ့
If you're sitting in a group, it goes without saying that you have to be quite careful in how you recite the passage. One must have consideration for others, and if at all you need to recite that inspiring passage, please do so just loud enough for you to hear yourself.
အဲ့ဒီနည်းနဲ့မပြတ်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်နားဆွဲပါတဲ့နာနာလေးဆွဲပါတဲ့ပြီးတော့လက်တူပါတို့ဟိုဒီလည်းပုတ်တတ်ပါတဲ့
If that doesn't work, well, we have to take more drastic measures. Pull your ears, rub your hands, your arms, your legs, your face, and that will help to circulate the blood and freshen you up a bit.
Now, အဲ့ဒီနည်းနဲ့မှပြတ်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မျက်နှာတစ်ပါတဲ့မျက်စိရဲ့ရည်တွေပါခတ်ပေါ့လေခတ်ပြီးတော့ကောင်းကင်နှက်ခတ်ကြတာယာတွေပါလည်းပဲကြည့်ပါတယ်ဟိုအရာလေးမျက်နှာလည်းကြည့်ပါတယ်
If the drowsiness is still pretty persistent, then one should get up and wash your face, wipe your face, and put in some eye drops. That will really wake you up, and then you can look at the stars. It is said, gaze at the stars.
မြန်မြန်ပြောက်ချင်ရင်တော့ဘုန်းကြီးစီမှာအမှန်စက်တဲ့မျက်စိရှိပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါလာပြီးတော့ခတ်နိုင်ပါတယ်ဘုန်းကြီးဖိတ်ကြားပါတယ်
If you really want to get rid of your drowsiness, Sayadaw has in his possession a very, very effective eye drop, and you are invited to come and taste it.
အဲ့ဒီနေ့မှမပြောက်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အလင်းကြည့်ပါတဲ့ညဘက်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မီးရောင်တို့ကျဲရောင်တို့လရောင်တို့ကြည့်ပါတဲ့နေကင်းမဲ့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်နေရောင်ကြည့်ပါတဲ့ဒါမှမဟုတ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဖောင်းပွေမှုကစားပေါ်တဲ့အာယုံကိုထင်းထင်းလင်းလင်းပြပြသားသားဖြစ်အောင်လည်းပဲရှုပါတဲ့
If that is another failure, then you are advised to look at a lighted object. Look at light, look at the sun, look at the moon, look at a light in your room that will help to wake you up. Another way of looking at this perception of light is by lightening up your mind in the sense of trying to look at rising and falling or your primary object, so that it becomes very clear and apparent.
အဲ့ဒီနည်းနဲ့မှမသက်သာဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ထပြီးတော့စဉ္ညာလျှောက်ပါတဲ့တခြားတစ်ပါးစိတ်မထွက်ရအောင်ကြွားတိုင်းလှမ်းတိုင်းခြားတိုင်းပုံမှာအပြည့်အဝရှုမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်တွေရောက်နေအောင်လို့ဟုတ်ပါတဲ့
Well, finally, if this doesn't still prove to be useful, then you should perhaps stand up and do some brisk walking meditation with mindfulness.
အဲ့ဒီနဲ့မှမသက်သာဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အိပ်ပြီးတော့တဲ့ရှုမှတ်ပြီးတော့အိပ်ပြီးတော့တဲ့နှုတ်ဆက်လေးလည်းချပြီးတော့အိပ်ပါတဲ့ဒါတော့မတတ်နိုင်တော့နောက်ဆုံးအရှုံးပေးလိုက်တာပဲ
Well, finally, a graceful surrender would be to go to bed.
အဲ့ဒါဒီနေ့ဒီနမိတ်နှိမ့်နေတရား9ပါးပြီးသွားပါပြီချိန်နဲ့ကြာသွားပါပြီကြာနဲ့